Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. It's interesting reflecting on the discussion we've seen today. In a sense, the politicians have all been quite negative. The academics have sat somewhere in the middle, and the business people have been a little bit more optimistic. And actually, as Lord Ashdown said this morning, at a time when there are many challenges in the world, this is a time for leadership, actually, when people need hope. And one of the things I reflect on from a business perspective is that business really can be a force for good. It's not just about generating profits. Business can bring people together. It doesn't necessarily respect national borders. And I think briefly about my own career and working in different locations and different cultures and how business has overcome some of those obstacles. I gave an example to some customers yesterday when I lived in Chicago. I bought a box of American flags and opened them to find each one had a little gold sticker on it that said "Made in China." And in a sense, it really shows you if the world's leading capitalist economy can outsource the production of its national symbol to a communist nation on the other side of the world, that business always finds a way to get things done. I also reflect when I lived in Abu Dhabi, a proud Islamic nation, but one that needed to import much of its labor force, a nation where you actually can buy alcohol, but you have to have a license with a photograph. You have to go to a very subtly located shop, and then you have to buy it in a black plastic bag. Again, whatever restrictions and rules there may be, different cultures, business tends to find a way. And China really was the reference point I thought I would start with this afternoon. And I would pick the number 6, because number 6 is a lucky number in Chinese for a few reasons. But it's particularly relevant to us here today for a couple of reasons. Firstly, just 6 miles away from where we sit, the main sea trade route between China and Europe passes by Malta. It's an economic flow that unquestionably has shaped the development of the Mediterranean region and will continue to do so. And secondly, and it's great to have the Minister here this afternoon, we sit here in a country that delivered a remarkable 6% growth last year in GDP, despite the gloom that we've heard all about this morning. And as the Speaker was just saying, at a time when we have a very different economic policy reality that sits across Malta, negative interest rates, even more negative by the month, it seems at the moment, and quantitative easing. And this has been delivered at a time, as Douglas, our trade economist, would have said earlier, when for the first time in many years, GDP growth actually was higher than merchandise trade. And it really starts to highlight that if you bring all these things together, continued economic liberalisation is essential so that business can serve its purpose as a force for good, not just a force to generate profitability. And amidst these shifting sands of global growth, we at HSBC believe the economic story of our time really is unchanged, and that is the shifting economic weight of the world from the West to the East. And also, speaking as the world's largest trade bank, I think we hopefully have some perspective. And we can see that here in Malta, the country and the economy is benefiting from these trends. Malta already has the 5th biggest port in the Mediterranean, and with further expansion, it could comfortably become in the top 3. The services exports to GDP ratio is the highest in Europe. And at a time, as you were rightly saying, actually demand for corporate credit has been relatively constrained. 80% of the trade fund we launched for local customers last year has been used in 10 months, which really shows that trade remains a force for growth. And China also continues to play a leading role in the second trend I thought I would comment on, that's shaping certainly the financial service industry, but the world around us more broadly. Today, there are some 674 million users of the internet in China, double those that are in the United States, yet the penetration in China is some 40 percentage points lower. And all around us, we see the transformational impact of technology on how we live our lives. And for Kenneth and I, representing 90% of the banking sector here in Malta, the implications are quite profound. To give you a little example, a week ago, we launched our HSBC Malta Facebook page, not the most riveting content you would perhaps expect to find on Facebook. But actually, it's quite remarkable in terms of the power of the digital age. Within a week, we'd connected individually with 40% of the population of the country. And if you think, how could you possibly achieve that through conventional marketing means, arguably it would have been impossible. Because the key challenge for our sector, simply speaking, is this is a business based on trust, about relationships with customers, and we have to keep up with the lifestyle of customers if the sector is going to continue to facilitate economic growth and development. And some of my fellow panelists have talked about the impact of post-crisis regulation. Undoubtedly, it has delivered many benefits to the Eurozone. It has prudentially improved the strength of the financial system across the but it has come at a cost. It's not simply the cost to the P&L of banks. It's also, I would say to the audience, it's an opportunity cost, in that banks have increasingly been able to invest in the innovation that customers expect in the way that they live their lives. Equally, we see the rapid rise of the fintech sector, which is leading banks around the world to rethink their technology models. Now, some might argue that this is a threat, but personally, I think this is an opportunity. At HSBC, we have a $200 million fund globally for investing in fintech companies because we believe if we work with them, we can accelerate our own digital transformation. And we're making progress. We've already made 40 million worth of investments, and we're about to launch in the UK fingerprint and reach into some 15 million customers. So to conclude, we believe the real story of the post-crisis economy, it may not be the most vibrant and fastest growing economy, is still this story of the rebalancing of the economic weight of the world from the West to the East. And if we can connect business and politics and create that belief, this cause for hope, that business does want people to work together, that when you sit down and interview somebody, the last thing you think about is what nationality they are, what culture they come from. You think about whether they're good. So business can be a force for positive change. So to conclude, it was yesterday talking actually to the CEO of Simmons Farson's Chisk that makes our famous beer here in Malta that reminded me just what a transformational impact this is. I was observing to him that it was interesting that I couldn't buy his product overseas. He politely pointed out to me, actually, I was completely wrong, because with 2 clicks on Amazon, you can get your Chisk delivered free of charge. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those thoughts. And we're going to conclude, before having a bit of a discussion with Kenneth Farrugia, some comments from Finance Malta.